episode
7.
Okay, part
2 of Moab 240.
There we go.
But first off, if you're watching on the YouTube, we have a new sign over here.
Who made it for us?
Caleb and Destiny.
Who are they?
They are friends of ours, but Sean and Caleb have been friends since they were 12?
No.
14.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
15?
Something like that.
Ish. So he made that sign out of some old gym equipment.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. It was some big rack thing and I stole some pulleys off of.
You can't really tell in this light 'cause it's too bright in here, but it has LED lights out the back. And then Destiny put on letters.
Yeah, it weighs about 50 pounds.
It's legit. We look
heavy,
legit now.
Yep.
Basically
awesome.
the next Joe Rogan over here.
Thank you guys.
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, you've been excited about talking about 240.
Because I loved it so much.
Okay, why did you love it?
Because it was hard.
Okay.
And never ending.
All right.
That makes me sound crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. But we talked about Moab in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And how Grandpa and Marilyn were our crew, essentially.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean? If someone said, "What's a crew?" What is that? What is that?
Crew is somebody that can drive out to aid stations and either just be there, bring equipment, have a place for you to take a nap. What am I missing?
No, I don't know. You tell me. What did the crew? I mean, how did the crew serve you in the race?
They met me along.
Yeah.
At aid station points.
Mm-hmm. So kind of like a mobile pit crew.
Yes.
Right.
So the whole race.
But where did they meet you?
Right. So the whole race has aid stations.
Mm-hmm.
The 9 aid stations.
Describe it an average aid station.
So an aid station, you walk up to it and there's like some tents.
Mm-hmm.
Like big, like canopy-ish tents.
Mm-hmm. How many?
It depends. Some are bigger than others.
Okay.
With more tents, less tents.
How many people on average are volunteering at an aid station?
5 to 10.
Yeah, easy.
Probably.
Yep. Okay.
And some of them, there's some like cots laid out, and there are usually a couple of people grilling food.
Mm-hmm.
Burgers.
Yep.
Pancakes, eggs, all sorts of stuff.
And then at least 1 to 2 like medical people.
Yes. And then at those aid stations, crew can drive up, park, and wait on their runner to come in. So at every aid station, there's like a check-in and check-out.
Yep.
So while you're running, you have your like, what am I trying to say?
Little GPS thing.
GPS.
Tracker.
Yeah. So your crew is most likely tracking you anyways, so they know when you're going to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Close to, yeah. Rough estimate.
Yes. And then you get to an aid station and you're like, okay, 209, check in. And then whenever you leave that aid station, they like log it as well. So like a crew could go up to that aid station and be like, has 209 come in yet? And they can like look at it because at most of these places, there's not any service.
Yeah. How many aid stations are on the 240 course?
9.
Okay. How many aid stations can crew go to?
I don't know. 7. 6.
Yeah.
Maybe 6.
Yeah. And then of those 6, how many of them are designated sleep aid stations?
5?
4.
4?
Yep.
So another thing about crew is that they probably know more about the race than on logistics anyways.
Yeah.
Sean had way more homework than I did. Okay, so from the beginning. Go from the beginning.
From the beginning of what?
Like 2021, it was first come, first serve with signups.
Yep.
And then when we DNF'd, which is did not finish,
Right.
I really wanted to go back.
Yep.
And Sean, you didn't really care.
I didn't care as much as I cared that you for sure did it. You cared way more about it than I cared about it.
And I probably had way more fun.
And I wanted to make sure that you got to the finish line. That meant way more than just me doing it.
That's so sweet.
Slightly less suffering.
Yeah, it's sweet. And
yeah. So in year 1,
okay,
Grandpa and Marilyn were crew.
Yes.
None of us had a clue really what that meant.
Yes.
Go out there, did the course, come back. It's January. I'm like, cool, you got in.
Yeah.
And then from there, that was like, okay, now we really have to start thinking about
logistics.
Yeah. And then it was like, crew definitely has to be part of this like solution to finishing this year.
Yes. So Marilyn and Grandpa first were like, yes, we'll go.
Right.
They love Moab Diner.
Yeah.
And then it was really asking my parents to go.
Yeah.
And then you thought it was the best idea to get an RV.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, we already knew that we were going to have, like, to stay in town, we had to get out to Moab.
Mm-hmm.
You have to sleep somewhere in Moab, but then you also have to have something to get you out to the course. And we knew for a fact that you would need something at least big enough to lay down in. So at least like a full back seat of something or a bed of something. Because year 1 we learned that the sleep tents at those 4 aid stations are
nuts.
Technically sleep tents, but the noise, the people in and out, the wind noise, like it's really hard to actually get any kind of sleep in those tents.
Yeah. So we rented an RV out of here, which was not a great experience from the actual renter side.
Yeah.
He was not nice.
No, so you were probably...
Anyways.
So, but now you're excited for 240.
I'm excited for 240.
This is early in the year.
Yes.
We
changed a lot of things about training.
Start training ASAP.
Mm-hmm.
And then these other like crew, RV, people thing, that was probably like 4 or 5 months later. We had early conversations with people like, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that. Like, do you want to go? Like, how do you want to support this? But those things really didn't start like culminating into like real plans until like summertime.
Yeah.
So before that, you're excited for 240. You get in, you're super pumped. What are you most excited about for year 2?
Honestly, just to be out there.
Why?
Because it was so much fun.
Why?
So I always get really sad when our adventures end. And this one just goes for days, and you don't have to stop. It was just a really fun experience. Trail World is way different. We talked about this on the last one, but that was on episode 5. If you haven't listened to it, you should listen to it. But Trail World is way different than Roadrunner World.
Yeah, but why were you so excited
to go back?
Yeah.
Well, I really wanted to finish.
Okay.
The race.
Was being a finisher just as important as being out there?
No. I mean, I really just wanted to be out there, and I really wanted to like train for it as well.
Yeah, I would have to kind of disagree.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You would say finishing was more important than being out there?
At least 50-50.
Okay.
Because there was never any there wasn't any like, oh man, I hope I make it to the end, or maybe if I make it to this mileage. There was just like, I'm going to go do 240. That was it.
Yeah.
Which is probably a little bit of the reason why you finished, was because instead of thinking of it as a will I finish, it was just a I'm so pumped to be out here for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Which will then mean I will have then finished.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you're excited because you get to be outside all day.
Yes.
Okay. You get to look at pretty things.
Yes.
You get to see sunrises and sunsets.
Yes.
Okay. You don't have you don't get to sleep.
Yes.
And that's it.
Sounds great.
There you go. And this happens to be other people doing it too.
Yeah.
Okay. You're pumped about 240
Pumped
for
about
year
240.
2. What
And terrified.
what happened in year 1 to year 2 that you jacked up, that you changed in year 2 to make sure that you got past the 100 miles?
More volume.
What does that mean?
Year 1, we probably had 3, 4, 5 weeks that were like over 35 miles
Mm-hmm.
of total mileage.
Yeah.
And then 2022, I worked up to like 45, 50 miles a week as soon as I could. And then also did like a ton of step ups.
So pretty much trained twice as much as last time.
Yeah. And we did step ups earlier today.
Yeah, still doing step ups.
Still doing step ups because at Moab, the terrain is so crazy. I mean, how many feet of elevation gain is there? 48?
Something like that.
1,000?
40 something. 40, it's a lot.
48,000 feet of elevation gain.
Over 40 means that over 4 days you have 10,000 feet of, that's just a daily, going up and down so many times.
Yeah.
It's definitely not flat.
So I worked up to 5 hours of step ups, and we ended up switching my training because Oklahoma doesn't have a ton of elevation or great terrain to train on for this.
Mm-hmm.
That we just switched it to time on feet.
Mm-hmm.
And just doing anything. So we say time on feet, but I did the stationary bike a lot too, like the assault bike, for hours at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And we do chunks of training, 8-hour days, 2 days in a row, or a 4-hour day, a 5-hour day the next day, and then a 6-hour day to end the weekend.
Yeah.
Anything like back to back to back work.
Yeah. And then I did, so as an example, you were building up to these gigantic days, and I knew that I would be helping and pacing, but I really didn't know how much, but I knew I kind of needed to be prepared, but I was still kind of battling some stuff. So if you would train for 8 hours, I might have trained for 2.
Yeah.
I was basically doing 25% of everything you were doing. Every time you did something, I did about a quarter of it, more or less.
Yeah.
Unless we did something unless we traveled somewhere. Did we go to the canyon again?
We did, but it was 10 days before Moab. We did Colorado in August.
We did. What did we do in Colorado though?
We did Quandary, and we did another.
Yeah, so we took a trip to Breckenridge area, Colorado, and did a 14er and then another long hike the day before. So those 2 days we basically did the same training, but everything else, I remember going out to Turkey Mountain and we did a back-to-back training day. So we went out there, trained, stayed in Tulsa, got up and did another training. And so I did part of each day, but I only did 1 to 2 hours Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And I would just hang out and
yeah, I mean,
wait until you finished.
That I remember that weekend because it was a big weekend, but everyone should have gotten a medal for helping me train because a lot of girls from the studio would come and
do sections.
Yeah, they would okay, well, I'll come do 6 miles, and then the next one would be I'm gonna do 10. So that weekend, I remember I had had 20 miles in the morning, and then we drove to Tulsa. You did 10 with me to finish a big day, and then we got up the next morning and you did that whole chunk.
Yeah, I guess however much that was the next day. So in the training, you had
one? Yeah. There.
You had.
Okay. So, yeah, so that was a big weekend. I basically had one giant weekend that was like 70 miles. But really, even if I wouldn't have hit 70 miles, it wouldn't have been a big deal because we were more focusing on time. So, like, in that world, you'll hear people and they're like, oh, I'm building up to like 100-mile weeks or whatever. And I didn't do that.
No, we knew the course would be at least 100 hours of work. So
yes.
we were trying to get to something of like, we were trying to basically get to like 20-hour weekends.
Yes.
Like, can you move for 20 hours within 2 days?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we were like building it.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely built all the training stuff. And then the real important part too is like, even if I was so over it mentally, it's like do another hour because that's when.
Mm-hmm. Like all the little brain calluses.
Yeah. That's when you like really grow mentally to just be able to keep going.
Yeah. That's definitely a huge piece of just intentionally putting yourself in uncomfortable things over and over and over and over and over again because you know it's going to be inevitable out there.
Yeah. Okay, so training all summer.
Training all spring and summer.
Yeah, all spring and summer to like, I mean, it takes a lot to build up to 45, 50-mile weeks. Because I built up to like 24 hours of cardio a week on top of like lifting. That's like a part-time gig.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a part-time gig. You probably spent, I mean, there would definitely be weeks where that would be 25, 30 hours of your week.
Yep.
Doing some sort of version of training of something.
Yeah, and washing my hair too many times.
Right. Yeah. So pretty much the vast majority of that training was done by yourself.
A good chunk of it. Not all of it.
At least 50%.
Probably 50% by myself. But, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that went at night.
Mm-hmm.
You would come with me. Anything out of town, you were with me.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I was whiny and was just over going back out, you would go out back with me.
Yeah, which is part of your excitement. Is you knew, I get to sign up this thing, which also means I definitely get to be outside a whole bunch all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I get an excuse to just nonstop move.
Yeah.
So exciting. Training was a big change from 2021 to 2022, but also gear was huge.
What does that mean?
So gear.
What's gear?
Packs were a big one.
Okay.
So we had big fast packs. That's what you would call them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really overnight backpacks, but day packs. 25 liters year one. And we noticed that we had like the biggest packs out there on the course.
Yeah.
So downsized to a 12-liter vest, which was way nicer, but to fit all of that gear in was kind of hard. So you have like required gear that you have to have during the race, which equals about 13, 15 pounds. So that was another thing. Like all my training I did at least with the 12 to 15 pounds in my bag. And then a couple of days I would go heavier to do like heavier rucking stuff.
Yeah. So we spend the first half of the year getting ready, ramping up training, ramping up gear, getting better ideas about how to manage gear and organization of all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're also doing so there's all the training changes for 240, amplified 2X, right? We're changing gear. We talked about the crew a little bit. We knew we were going to have crew support through the duration of the course. And then what would be the other big change from year one to year two?
I don't know.
Pacer.
Oh, yes, having a pacer.
Well,
I mean, it was hard because year one we were together.
Right. But a pacer is supposed to be like
mentally more there.
Right. Generally speaking.
And physically.
The pacer, who is basically your battle buddy,
mm-hmm.
they're number one, like their biggest benefit, I guess, would be mental
freshness,
capacity.
Yeah.
Because they've ideally have had somewhat more sleep and rest and food than the runner, quote unquote runner, has had.
Yeah.
And so we knew that was the big three big changes. We knew we were gonna have crew.
Mm-hmm.
We knew we were gonna have pacing, at least for 50% of the course.
Yes.
And then the training had changed.
Yeah.
And so who was the crew?
So Grandpa, Marilyn,
Mm-hmm.
my mom, Brad, and you.
Okay, that's the crew, and then the pacers.
You and Jess, which we've
Okay.
talked about, Jessica.
Right.
So she actually is from Oklahoma. Did we go over this already?
Kind of.
She's from Oklahoma, but year one, she has a friend.
We have a mutual friend who connected the dots about the ultra because we said we were doing 240, and then year one, this same girl randomly see her at mile 8 at station. She's like,
"Are you the couple from Oklahoma?"
Yeah, like from a distance as we're like leaving.
Yeah.
And then you see her.
Yeah, she was the sweeper. So this is another like ultra term.
Sweeper. So that's the person who is a volunteer for the race.
Yes.
Who brings up sections of the course.
Yes.
One, to grab all of the physical orange tags off the course.
Mm-hmm.
So it's clean.
Mm-hmm.
They sweep the course, and then they make sure that whoever the last person is gets brought into the next aid station.
Yeah, because most likely they're not hitting the cutoff.
Right. They're definitely, if they're not hitting their cutoffs and they're getting caught by the sweeper.
Yeah.
There's also things not good. Like something's off.
Yeah.
That they need like someone who's got a little more like mental capacity.
Yes.
So year one at mile 87, you step off with that other girl.
Yes.
Right. And then
Jess swept us.
So Jess catches up to y'all.
Yeah, we walk with her for at least 10 miles.
Right. And so that's the second time so now you spend time with Jess.
Spend time with her. Mm-hmm.
So year one, that happens.
And then
24 hours later,
yeah, at least,
we're waiting in line to eat at a restaurant.
because we had both, like Sean and I both DNF'd at this point.
Yeah. And so the race course is still going on.
Mm-hmm.
But Jess had finished her sweeping.
Mm-hmm.
And she was at the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up having dinner with her year one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we ended up having dinner with her, and then we started talking, and they're like, yeah, so where are you from? And we connect the dots that she was from Oklahoma as well.
Yes.
But we'd met in Moab from the ultra world.
Yeah.
So we keep up communications.
Yeah.
And you get into the second one. She's not doing that race either.
Yes.
But she had done it the 2 years prior. So she's got experience out there as well. So she's the first pacer.
She's the first
So she
pacer.
comes out and takes you from mile 70 to 120.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were super excited about her helping you?
I was so excited about her helping me.
Why?
Because I was, one, terrified to do any night sections by myself.
Because you would have gotten, so y'all would have been, we knew beforehand that you would have been at least the majority of the day into the night with her, or half the day and then most of the night.
Yes.
That we knew that section timing wise, she would be with you at least through the night until we saw you at the cruise station.
Yeah. So before the race, Sean really tried to pace everything out based on my training, on how long it would take me for all of these things. And then we knew that the biggest climbs were Shea Mountain and the LaSalle's.
Yeah. So Shea was a big climb from basically mile 80, basically 90 to 120 over that marathon distance.
Yeah.
It's a 3,000 or 4,000 foot climb over that marathon distance up to the top of Shea. Yeah. So it's a big day. It's a big second half, and you're making that section at night.
Yep.
Right. So you're pumped about having having Jess with you for night 2,
Yes.
which is also already in. Now we're getting into sleep issues.
Yes. And she had already done that, not course, but that section twice.
Yeah.
So she was like a little familiar with it. Like I hadn't got to that point year 1.
Yeah,
so it was still like an unknown.
Right, because you went from 87 to 101.
Yeah.
With her. In year 1.
Yeah.
And then got picked up at mile 101.
Yeah. But
so the 101 to 120 was unknown.
the climb. Yeah.
But she had already done that twice.
Yeah, twice. So I was really excited. And to have somebody out there that's like done races like that is really helpful, because she was great with helping like plan logistics too.
Yeah, shout out to Jess.
Whoop whoop, saving my life.
Okay.
And then I was also really excited to have Grandpa, Marilyn, and Mom and Brad out there.
Right, so the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
You were excited about.
Yeah.
Who's the first person you saw at mile 70 when you came into the aid station? Do you know? Do you remember? So that would have been your first full...
I think it was Mom.
18 hours or 19 hours in?
Was it Mom?
Yeah, had to be.
Yeah, standing at I think it was Mom and Marilyn.
Yeah.
Standing at the aid station.
Yeah.
Yeah. So crew like basically keeps your life together while you're out there.
Basically.
So they keep everything organized.
Yeah.
Your snacks.
Yep.
Your clothes.
Yep.
Your headbands.
Yep. And crew is optional. It's not a mandatory thing.
No, but definitely wouldn't have survived without crew and pacers.
Yeah. And it's probably, I mean, I would think for you, yes, coming in and seeing the crew and like also stepping off at mile 0, knowing, okay, now I see these 5 people at the starting line at 5 a.m. or whatever that was on that Friday. And you're like, I get to see them in 24 hours.
Yeah.
You knew like that kind of like that timeline objective like was going to be around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the start line is terrifying. But I met a girl online. Yeah. And we kind of agreed to like step off together and make it through the first night together, because it seemed like we had like similar paces, and we both didn't really want to walk in the middle of the desert at night by ourselves.
Yeah.
It's scary out there. There's nothing out there.
Right.
It's weird. There's nothing out there.
There's nothing out there. And that kind of worked.
Yeah, that kind of fell through.
Which is part of being at these things, at these races, and all the unknowns is like, yeah, you can depend on your training and your plan.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I know that I am excited and I'm so pumped to be out here. I am not super pumped about the night by myself.
No.
Right?
That was my biggest like scare.
Because it's nuts out there at night. Especially that first half of the course, which is like super deserty.
Yes.
When, depending if there's no sun or sun, it's like either full moonlight or no moonlight, no stars.
Yeah.
But the landscape at night looks nuts, and you can't see the trail.
No.
There's no like, because it's all gigantic rocks everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're either stepping over little rocks or you're walking across rock faces that are half mile long or something crazy.
Yeah.
So it's all on your phone.
Yeah.
Like you have to like look down.
You have to look at your map
and make sure your little GPS beeper is still on the same one. So it's nice to have someone with you. But
yes,
something that's really crazy about these courses is you're spending 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours with certain people.
Yeah.
And sometimes like humans are way different.
Yeah.
And paces are different. Energies are different. Like attitudes are different. The way you handle stress is different. So it's hard to be super dependent on anybody.
Yeah.
Including, well, I guess yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So I step off with this girl, which made me feel a lot better about like actually starting the race, because I thought I had like a battle buddy for the night. And then knowing the sooner I got to mile 70, the sooner I could see them, and the sooner Jess was going to step off with me.
Yeah. So a lot of the pacing crew sections and like the excitement is kind of about this, like, this forecasting, like, okay, when I get to here at this thing at this time,
Yeah.
and those little stories run through your head
Yes.
often.
The whole time. Yeah.
For
You're like, if I
hours.
can just make it 12-minute mile for the
Mhm.
next 5 miles, I'm going to get to this aid station. And then after I hit that aid station, I only have 20 more miles until I get to see them.
Yeah,
It's a weird, like,
yeah.
you're just constantly mathing.
Right. So super pumped about. So really on 240, you're like, I am excited to be out here. I'm excited to have my family out here. I know I've got someone to help me with this first big climb that's new to me.
Yes.
Anything else from the first day? Like when the crew was helping you on mile at 70, what were you the most excited about? Do you think it was like seeing people, getting food, getting a nap, getting different clothes?
Well, if we start on like back at the finish, like at the start line, right?
Uh-huh.
Before we even step off, like the things that I remember the most is that I couldn't braid my hair the way I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, these are not 200-mile braids. They suck. And Grandpa was like, they look great. We got to go.
Right.
You know, at the start line, so fun. But then to get to mile 70, there was a lot that happened in between. Like aid stations had no water. It was super hot. I got to see you guys at mile 17, which was nice for a quick second.
Yeah.
Mile 17.
17?
I think
30?
so. It was like right at the beginning.
17 or 30? 17.
Maybe it was 30. No,
17.
not at 30.
It was 17. It was 17, yeah.
And then I had an aid station at mile 30, which was nice, but it was like really hot at this point. Like desert hot.
Yeah.
90 something degrees.
Yep. Not crew accessible.
Not crew accessible.
So
no.
at 17, we kind of like do a once over. Hey, how are you? Give you a hug.
Yeah.
Make sure your water is topped off and that you're drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you step off from there midday.
Yeah.
Early, probably mid-morning.
Mid-morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably 9, 10 a.m., something like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got, so now you have 17 to 32.
32. And me and this buddy that I had met online, we're still together at mile 32.
Okay. You fill up with water there?
Yes. But then there was supposed to be like, so there was an aid station at 32 and then 56. And in between there, since that's a big chunk in the middle of the desert during the day, they were supposed to have a water station.
Yeah. So, and I remember that from year one.
Yeah.
It's just it's like a
table with water.
It's a fold-up table, and it's got like 4 or 5 igloo things with water. No humans, nothing out there. It's just they just put a bunch of water out there beforehand.
Yeah.
And that, I think that gap, I want to say that gap is the biggest unassisted gap of the entire course.
I think so.
Because it's something at like 28 miles.
Yeah.
So basically think if like someone were going to do a marathon, 100% self-supported through the desert.
Yeah.
Like that's that section.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle, there's supposed to be water.
Yep. And it was out. But I'm going to backtrack really fast because at aid station 30 was where I had my first blisters that I noticed on my feet, which is pretty early in a 200-mile race.
That's really early.
And the lady popped it.
Not good.
No.
That's a bad sign.
So it's not already, but this is a mistake that I learned the night before the race.
Yeah, because someone on the we RV'd, road tripped out Oklahoma City to
with my parents.
With the parents.
Which was a lot of fun.
Out to Moab.
Yes.
Over 2 days.
The 4 of us in the RV.
Yeah, and you had too much time, which meant you did what?
I started Googling.
You fucked with shit.
I fucked with shit.
Too much time.
I Googled that if your feet were softer, that you were less likely to get blisters because the callus wouldn't get stuck on your sock and rub. So I asked them to stop somewhere, and I got a file, and I filed my feet down, and they were the softest feet ever.
How many times have you done that during training?
None. I didn't.
0.
No filing during training. So I had blisters at mile 30, which were great.
Yeah, so all that training that you doubled up on, building these nice little calloused armors, you just got rid of them all.
Yep.
So by mile 30, we're already dealing with blisters. Which is early for this type of event.
Early.
Yeah, not good.
No. Get to mile.
You get to mile,
I guess 40-ish, where there's no water, whatever.
yeah.
And then in between 40 and 56, this is when it starts to get dark, and me and Battle Buddy we just didn't have the same energy.
No.
So we part ways.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when I was really scared.
Yeah. And you end up walking with...
Not yet, though.
It wasn't too far away.
No. So it was like, I probably had like 6 miles in the dark before I got to the next aid station.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then at that aid station, you stepped off with somebody. Like someone was leaving, and you're like, can I like join you?
Yeah, someone was leaving. I'm like, can I join you? And I realized real soon that I was not going to be able to keep his pace. But he led me to this next guy.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, I think we're at the same pace.
Yeah. Which is a fun, like...
it is a fun.
These distances are so gigantic, and the people are spread out everywhere, but you kind of like find random people to walk with for miles and miles and miles and miles. Because some people match your pace, or some people just want to hang out with someone else, and so they match your pace.
Yeah.
And you just make you just make friends with people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're obviously all nuts.
All nuts. So this is probably like 8 or 9 p.m.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
In the night?
I wasn't there.
You were tracking me. Okay, whatever. Leaving 56, I catch up to this other guy that I was like, I'm going to be able to walk with him probably. His name was Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked with him from that aid station to mile 70.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out to Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Which randomly, Jim was the guy... Was Jim the guy that gave me a ride?
No, that was...
That was another guy that we ran into.
But I
later.
ran into him. No, I ran into him early. He's fast. I ran into him at like mile 15 or something.
Right,
and then I never saw him again because he was like
That's
top
right.
10.
That's right.
Jason Clark? His last name was
yeah,
Clark.
Yeah. Jason Clark. Yeah. Which is funny, weird. The community is kind of strange how things are always like looping around.
And he's the one that actually gave us the idea for Mount Box.
Yeah. He called it Mount Box as we were talking to him when we were leaving.
Y'all do step ups all the time, like Mount Box?
Because he had started following us after year one. Because he was the guy who took me back into town after DNFing year one.
Yeah.
And ended up staying out there for year number 2.
Yeah, so he volunteered. And if you volunteer at one of these races, you get a free race pass.
Yeah.
So he volunteered, took him back, and then we ran into him year 2, which was fun.
Yeah, free pass because these courses, I mean, it's a big deal. This is not like a 10K, like afternoon thing. This is a multiple day logistics deal. So race passes are pricey. It's quite an investment to go do one of these things for this amount of time. It's expensive. I think the first year is $1,200 a piece, right? Something like that. Which gets you a really fun goodie bag. You get a shirt, you get a little bag, you get a little bell or something. You get a belt buckle if you finish. But the math also shakes. Is supporting you multiple days.
And like feeding you and stuff.
Yeah, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, so you get to you walk in with Jim.
I walk in with Jim, and I'm kind of already like out of it at this point.
Yeah, you were
first full night, no sleep.
Already more out of it than other no sleep events that we've done.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah, because there's like lots of stuff about the race that I just don't even remember. It's like hours are just not there.
Yeah, which is also probably another reason that you're capable of doing those things, because you can just space out.
Probably.
Right. And but then at the same time, sleep affects you way different than like for me. Sleep does not have that effect on me.
Yeah, Sean cannot sleep and
also cannot space out.
Be fine.
What do you mean?
Like you don't hallucinate like I do.
Right. Yeah. No, it doesn't. Like mentally, it doesn't have the same like.
Yeah.
Sleep deprivation doesn't have that effect on me.
Yeah.
But being aware of my pain is.
Oh, sure. Sure.
wired different.
Yeah.
So
we get to 70.
with
Mom.
Jim. You see Mom.
Yes.
See Marilyn.
Yeah. So me and Jim part ways, and I couldn't have even told you kind of what he looked like because it was dark.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
I just knew he was like taller than me, and we walked. That was it. So we part ways. Mm-hmm. Mom and Marilyn are standing there.
This is early, day 2.
Yes.
So this is, I want to say like 7 a.m.
Yeah, the sun wasn't up yet.
It was still, I know we drove out in the dark, but I think it was light. No, I think we had headlamps.
Yeah, because
walking out to get you.
You guys have a video of this guy popping my blister at that aid station.
Right.
And it's gross.
That's right. So we are a little ahead of time.
At this point.
Yeah, from our full race, like, expectations, we're a little fast.
But for you guys to get out to 70, what was that? Because it's 70 miles from the starting point. Right. So that means...
The little fast was also kind of almost got us, like, you almost beat us there. Because I went to bed is a weird word, but you don't really sleep as, like, crew. But I remember checking at, like, 10 or 11 maybe, something like that, some point. And I was like, okay, she's at mile 40, whatever. She has this many left. She'll get to this one, get to that one. That puts her in at 7:30 a.m. And then I remember getting up 2 or 3 hours later, checking it again at like 12:30 or 1 a.m. And then it was like 7:10 was the expected time with a little math on the Excel sheet. And I was like, okay. And then checking it one more time, I think I woke up at 2 a.m., something like that. And it was still like 7. And I was like, oof, we're going to have to like maybe get 2 more hours of sleep. And we need to like drive out of here because it's an 1.5-hour drive from Moab to the aid station. And so we leave, which is also, anytime there's more than one person, things take longer than you think they are. So that's like waking up your parents.
Getting ready. You know, Grandpa's ready. Unhooking the thing.
Right. Getting the RV, like.
Drivable?
Not really. It was just hooked up to, I think it was just power.
Oh.
I think because we knew we'd be leaving in the middle of the morning, leaving the campground. And then we drive out there and we are hauling down this super curvy, like 2-lane road in the middle of the desert. And this RV in the dark.
And RVs are not this like smoothest ride.
No. And the 2-lane road is definitely like a small 2-lane road, but it's okay. But we're watching the GPS. You lose signal as soon as you leave town. So the dirt road that takes you to that campsite that is where that aid station is, we were watching the GPS from a saved GPS, not a live GPS, because it loses signal. Yeah. And so you're basically just like driving to the desert looking for some turnoff that makes sense on top of your little GPS map thing.
Yeah, so I forgot to mention navigation is really important for the crew as well. It's like top job.
Navigation for everybody.
Because Sean was talking about like entering times. Like you were like on a spreadsheet like trying to figure out best estimates.
Computer was open pretty much the entire.
Because then it's like
3 days.
Oh, she's going to be done in 3 hours. That means we have to leave in the next 15 minutes because all of the things. And then do we need gas before we go out there? Because there's nothing out in any of these places. Yeah, you
kind of had to be in a like... I remember one of the mornings that we were getting ready, and it was either late at night. I think it was later at night. We were like heading to bed, but we knew it was going to be a super early morning. It might have been night 1. It must have been night 2 or 3. Must have been 3. That the one that Marilyn wasn't at.
Oh, yeah.
It was going to be something like, we have to leave here at 2 a.m. Something crazy. Yeah. And it was that night before after dinner.
Marilyn, I can't believe you were at that one.
She's like, nope. I'm going to stay with the puppies. Because I think she'd already gotten up.
Yeah.
To like
she did.
Crazy early mornings. But the logistics to drive out there is kind of wild.
Yeah.
So you get to the cruise station. We're still at mile 70 at this point.
We are.
See the parents.
See a long time.
And then you're most excited about seeing us?
Seeing you guys changing my clothes.
Yep.
And picking up Jess. I was really excited for Jess to join me because you have like a person. You have like a designated battle buddy.
Right. A known, trustable
Yeah.
person that you have experience with.
Yeah. And like just already 70 miles. That's a lot.
It's a lot. And that's the...
By yourself.
So,
but even though I was with Jim.
Yeah. Did we see... Which is nice.
Yeah.
I don't...
He could have left me at any point,
He
though.
could have.
Okay.
Sure.
Just couldn't leave me.
Yeah, that's her job.
Yeah.
But I think is that the first time since we saw her in Moab 21 that's like the first time we'd seen her again, and a year later at the course? Did we see her before then?
I saw her before then because she was randomly in town and we did some miles together.
Okay.
At the lake or something, Arcadia. We did some trails together, which was kind of when I first put the little...
Right. Hey, by the way,
you're invited.
You're more than welcome to come and pace me.
Yeah.
And she took advantage.
She did.
And said, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I think all we were responsible was we went out and got her.
Yeah.
So that was like that. When you were on that, I think after we saw you at 17, we went back, had lunch.
Yeah.
And then went and picked her up at the airport, took her to the hotel. And then she rode, I think she rode out with us. No, she rode out to 70 with someone else.
No.
Or she
was
rode
with
out
you
to
guys.
70?
Yeah.
Yeah,
She was in the camper with you guys.
So
yeah.
she came with us out to the aid station.
Yeah.
And then stepped off with you.
And then so when she stepped off with me at 70, at the next aid station, it wasn't crew accessible. And so that's when she was like, okay, well, I can for sure do 50 miles and I'll go until 120.
Yeah. So there's 87, there's 101, and there's 120. And this is the quarter, this 25, whatever, this big chunk from 70 to 120.
Yeah.
And crew is only accessible at 70 and 120. So when you asked her to pace her, she was like, well, do you have a certain section? And that's the one that you asked if she could help with. And so she volunteers to do 70 to 120, which is crazy to think that someone just does 50 miles to the desert
just casually,
just with no start line, no medal, no shirt, no for
just
the
a support,
no nothing.
Yeah.
You just do 50 miles in the middle of the desert just to help someone else out.
Yeah.
And then you just get back in the RV and go back into town.
Yeah.
So Pacer, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Super pumped about that. You're nervous about the climb out in the middle of the night. We know that's going to happen to 120.
Yes.
Okay.
And Jess had told me like how hard this section was.
Yeah.
She probably told me a million times how hard it was. She was like really trying to mentally prepare me for this.
Yeah.
Which she mentally prepared me so much that by the time we did it, I was like, oh, that was it?
Yeah. Right,
Even though I was out of my mind by this point.
Yeah, because you really did not sleep
at
all at 70. I mean, it was like a 15-minute nap or something in the RV. It was very, very short.
Yeah, and Jess kept like walking ahead of me and then stopping and waiting on me to like catch up to her because I could not get my legs to go at this point.
Yeah, so this is already stacking up dirt naps.
Yes, as many as she would let me.
Which is a dirt nap.
Is like 3 to 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Lay down.
And so you're just on the trail or
you're
on the
trail,
course, wherever you are.
Yeah.
And you just stop.
Yeah. And a lot of the times I would just try to find a rock that was more elevated to put my head on instead of taking my pack off because that's a pain. So just lay down and she would set an alarm and then get back up.
Yeah. So a pacer will kind of just stand there or sit down.
Yeah.
And they just hang out, watch you power nap, alarm goes off, they wake you up, stand you up.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And
then you're just managing this infant from now on.
Yep. Infant for sure. The climb was hard. It was hard.
It's a big climb.
And like we randomly went through this like gate and I remember thinking like, this is somebody's property.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just, like all of a sudden like big cows right beside us staring at us, which is nuts. I mean, the whole thing is just nuts. But make it to 120. At all these aid stations, I had major blister issues though.
Yeah, every time you got to an aid station, those two you went to, you stop, take the shoes off, take your socks off,
Yes.
clean your feet, go to the medic, get your blisters popped or bled or cut or covered
terrible.
or Band-Aid or taped or whatever combination of things they do.
Terrible.
And then...
But episode 5, we talked about this at mile 87, the guy who talked me into walking from 87 to 100 without you, the lucky one.
Yeah.
We saw him and his wife, and he got teared up that I was out there again at 87, which was nice. It was cute. Anyways. Okay.
Cute.
So I'm really hallucinating at this point before we get to you guys at mile 120.
Okay, and so now you're hallucinating. We're going into night 2.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which means you've been awake for 48 hours.
Yeah.
Passing 48 hours.
Yeah.
1, 2. Yeah, so you're now... Night sets in. You are at 48 plus... You're in 60 hours, 65 hours going through the night right there before you get to the top of that climb. Roughly. Yeah.
I guess so.
Okay. And then... Now you know... Now your big mark is... Top of the climb.
Top of the climb.
And...
Get to 120.
Get to 120.
Aid station. Full crew.
Full crew.
Uh-huh.
Which is, okay, excited to see everyone, but then you're also not excited because...
I have to go by myself again.
You know the next section is...
Yeah. But it's also
solo.
a halfway mark, which was a big point to get to, kind of.
Yeah, and at that point, why were you going solo and not having a pacer?
I really wanted Sean to do the LaSalle's with me, which was another big mountain range, which is another big climb. And that wasn't until mile 180 to 200-ish. So if I picked him up too early, then he wouldn't have any time to rest before.
So the section coming off of 120 to 167.
I did solo.
And I think there's 2 more aid stations that aren't crew accessible.
Yes.
Ish, kind of.
Yeah.
But it's a flat section. It's a road section.
Yeah, it's really lame.
Road is a weird word, but...
So the kind of shape I was in before, right before I met you guys at 120, we're running down this dirt road. And I thought there were people lined up playing beer pong, a party of tables. Mm. I saw my mom's head sticking out of the trees with a big gold star on it. Mm-hmm. And then I get to you guys.
Yeah.
Take a nap.
Yeah, get to us. You're at the aid station, the fire, grabbing some food, checking in with the medics, because that's the first things first. Sit down, check in with the volunteers.
My feet were terrible.
Check in with medic, and then we'll kind of and so we're there. We'd been there for a few hours because day 1 we got too close with time. Day 2 we built in way too much buffer,
and I was a little slower.
And so we were there for 4 or 5 hours, 2 to 6 a.m. or something.
What were you guys doing?
They were making coffee and chit-chatting and making breakfast and just hanging out from, your mom was rummaging through the same box 17 times, reorganizing things over and over and over again. Yeah. And the RV was, quarter mile from the aid station because there's only one road, right? And it's really tight up there, especially up Shea. And so we're randomly walking back and forth to kind of look. And we finally found a little bit of a random spot to get service. And so we could then see your GPS and we could get closer to seeing you when you were up there. And then we go and get you, but you're in great spirits.
I'm in great spirits, but my feet were shredded.
Yeah, you were definitely hallucinating quite a bit. And so sleep was necessary at this point. Yeah. But energy-wise, still great. Yeah. Still in it, still happy, smiling. And then we get Jess. She's fine. Looks like she's tired too.
It's she's done 50 miles through the night.
She's did 50 miles through the night. Anything memorable from the 120 aid station or the 120 crew?
Leaving 120. I mean, I don't really remember this, but you have a video of it. Somebody has a video.
Yeah.
So I was stepping off by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you, Brad, Mom, and Grandpa are all like crying as I'm stepping off. And Marilyn is like hooping and hollering behind you guys. She's like, go get that buckle. Like waving her arms around, which is really funny.
It's really funny. And you stepped off in the wrong direction.
I did. I stepped off in the wrong direction, which is embarrassing.
Because we were down the road, so you couldn't.
It's confusing.
It's confusing because you can't see.
Yeah.
It's like a big corner. You can't see the aid station.
Yeah.
And at that moment, there wasn't any other like people on the course.
Yeah.
And the road is part of the course. So you step out, and we're all giving hugs, and you started walking back towards the aid station, which is going against the course.
Yeah.
And like, no, the other way, down the hill.
Yeah.
Down the hill is the actual direction you want to go.
Yeah.
It's a big full aid station.
It was nice to sit by the fire and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that you had another benefit of taking the RV. We knew for a fact that there's like little tiny wins you can get just to get 1% happier, 1% more comfortable, 1% just in a better mood.
Yeah.
And we intentionally got that RV with knowing we wanted a shower.
Yeah. So I did get to take a shower.
So got to take a shower.
Which this is probably like...
That's definitely a luxury out there.
Oh, yeah.
That's not normal.
No. But also a luxury of being a girl out on a course like this.
Mm-hmm.
TMI for the podcast, but started my period during the race.
Mm-hmm.
Which like... There are not bathrooms out there.
No.
Like legit bathrooms.
No. Nowhere.
So that added in a fun factor.
Yeah.
Little chaos. All the girls will appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did get to shower. I didn't wash my hair or anything. I changed my clothes and I showered.
Got to shower, and I'm pretty sure you had a minimum of like a legit hour deep sleep.
Yeah, I think so.
Fell asleep, like sleep in bed in the RV anyways. Yeah. And then get up and around and get to stepping off again. Sun was up now.
Yes. Yeah, I ran into a guy like 2 miles after the aid station. He's like, wow, you look fresh. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, got a fresh change of clothes.
Got a shower. Mom was like washing my clothes every night.
Right,
so like they looked all clean. Yeah.
But I think you were in and out of that aid station in like, it had to have been maybe 3-4 hours.
Yeah, at
maybe,
least.
something like that.
Which is kind of a long time to stay in an aid station.
That's a long time. But we were ahead of schedule, and we knew that there was plenty of time. You weren't even close to like the next cutoff of the next aid station.
Yeah.
And so that's a sweet spot between, in those ultras, how much pace to push, how much rest to push.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to rest. You don't want to waste time resting, but you also know that the more you rest, the better the next section will be because of the higher quality rest.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to like, to keep that balance between that work rest. Don't rest too long, but definitely take rests.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a time, and we get there later, where you just start stacking your dirt naps.
Yeah.
Like you just get to a point to where like you just can't do anything.
Yeah.
At all, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. So I leave 120, go down a trail for a while, and then get to another small aid station that you guys ended up surprising me at. I wasn't expecting you to be there.
Yeah.
But really cute. Before I got to this aid station, this like mom and daughter, this little bitty girl, she was like 4 or 5, was like standing there with a sign that said, "Go Danny," and it had number 209 on it.
Uh-huh. How did she know that? Where this is at the...
This is before we get to that aid station that you guys surprised me at. So it's just like off of the trail, but they were like on our path to like go.
Yeah. And
the lady asked me before she got out the sign, she was like, "Have you seen Runner?" She said one number, and I was like, "No." And then she was like, "What about 209?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm 209. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, my daughter found you on the website and she wanted to make you a picture." I was like, "That's so cute." So that was sweet. And then when I got to to you guys, that was exciting because you surprised me. And I was honestly, that was probably like my lowest. I was in a not great mood.
No.
Because it was down a boring road. I felt like I was going so slow.
Yeah.
I felt so slow. I thought I was going to be way faster at that point. It was hot.
Hot.
And it was it was just so boring. I wasn't walking with anybody at that point, or running with anybody.
Yeah. Which is like, that's like the worst of all the parts of the, you've gone through, so now you're 3 days in, you're.
Yeah. I'm at mile like 140.
Right. So this is big mileage, very little sleep.
Yeah.
You've already gone through a couple different temperature shifts,
Kinda
sunrises,
cranky.
sunsets,
Yeah.
right? This is and you're over halfway from the 120.
Yeah.
But you're not close enough to the end to be excited about the end.
No. And I think I was real sad because I knew that I wasn't going to be fast enough to meet you before it got dark again.
Yeah.
And so I knew I was going to have to do night 3 by myself,
Yeah.
which what I was really bummed about.
Yeah. The only plus of that section, which has now been changed on that course,
Mm-hmm.
is that you're kind of close to a section of road, and like you're not in a canyon or on top of a mountain, and you have cell reception for quite a bit.
Oh yeah, I did FaceTime you guys. I was texting Margot at one point.
Yeah. You have a little more escape with communications.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the phone doesn't work ever.
Yeah.
So there's no texting, calling anyone. This is the only one random section.
Yeah. And you really don't want to use battery either.
Right, because it's the thing with the GPS.
Right.
It's telling you where to go. So you don't want to like drain your battery doing nonsense with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Should
I try to be fast?
You make a big section, have a little bit of a scare because it went from...
Oh, I was too hot.
Cold the night before.
Yes.
We kind of saw you on the side of the section.
Yes.
And it is... now it gets really hot. And as it gets really hot, you were with your other layers. We see you. It's super hot. We get your dry layers wet with ice and your beanie, and you're like buff wet so that it can keep you cool. And so you have a good long hot road section, gravel road, and you get to a weird part where we're battling dehydration, overexposure, and now you get into like chills, running a little bit of a fever because the sun's going down, which is... Now we're in dangerous territory because you know you're going to go through high desert night, and you're going to go into high desert night with chills.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not the greatest at like eating and drinking water when I'm by myself out there.
No.
So that was another thing on like I probably hadn't had enough water or food solo.
Yeah, so your body was definitely freaking out.
My body was freaking out. I get to the next aid station, which is not crew accessible.
Nope.
And it's like
120? No, that'd be
no,
121.
it was like 156 or something.
Something like that.
And I'm sitting there. They were like, "Have you had any electrolytes?" And I was like,
Right.
"No."
Yeah.
And so they gave me some electrolytes. I ate some soup, and then beside me, this guy like kind of looked familiar,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, "I think I know you. Are you Jim from night 1? I hadn't seen him since." And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You want to step off together?" And he's like, "Yes."
Yeah, so the same Jim from miles 50 to 70, you see again from 150.
150 to 1, I guess it was 167 that you stepped off with me.
Yep.
So another like 17 miles. And we didn't run at all. We like walked the whole time through the night.
Yeah, people ask you that question all the time. Like, did you run it? And you're like, it's 240 miles.
I
like,
ran as most as I could.
Right.
Yeah.
On a percentage, how much of it was... Okay.
Oh, okay.
On a percentage of the course, how much of it is runnable? Like, to where someone would have, like, decent footing.
For me?
No, for an average... Okay.
Human?
For us on a good recovered day.
Mm-hmm.
If we're like, oh, let's just go do 10 miles, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much of the 240 miles is runnable?
Like 40% maybe?
Yeah, maybe 40, 50% is
Yeah.
runnable, unless you're like the elites.
Yeah.
unless you're the top 10% people.
Yeah.
So even saying that, technically the course is only runnable half of it.
Yeah.
Without the rest of it being basically hiking.
Yeah.
And so if you do catch a section that is that 40% and you have the energy, then maybe you can get some shuffling in.
Maybe. If you're not.
Right. You can try to. And even then, I think sometimes you just do that because, like, boredom.
Yeah.
You're just like, I'm just going to do something different for a little while and shuffle along.
Yeah. 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 So during that, I thought I saw the Titanic sitting out in the field.
Okay. Yeah.
Thought I saw freaking all sorts of stuff. Nonsense.
And
then when I get to you guys, which I don't even know what it took to get out to that aid station.
That one was one of the easier ones because it was
so
directly
it
off
was
of the road. It was about 45 minutes outside of town.
I just remember I had like a weird deja vu when I got there. Like I had been there before and I'm like, this is nuts because I know.
Yeah, we never.
Had never been there before.
No. And what did you keep saying about when we left at 120 till that one section? Like, why would they?
Oh, yeah. This is how bad I was losing it. I kept thinking that I was doing an event, which, I was, but that they left me and they wanted me to walk to my next activity and they wouldn't just drive me.
Right.
Like mad at Mom and Sean and Brad and Grandpa.
Right. Because
Marilyn.
this section 1 was mainly road, but we also knew that's when I was going to step off with you at 167
to do the climb,
to start up.
Yeah.
And so you were like, I dropped off the person. Now I have to go down this road and I'm not going to get a person again. Like, why would they leave me out here?
Why would they make me walk to the next house?
Right. To the next thing.
The next aid station.
So it kind of
such a ridiculous.
It kind of feels that way.
Did feel like they left me out there.
Yeah. And so we get to, this is now the 3rd sleep station. Road 46 aid station.
Is this where you meet me?
Yeah, this is 167. You come in pretty rough. Energy was definitely down. Spirits were okay, but they were like pretty defeated just from such a boring section.
Yeah, and by this point my lips are so burnt and it's like you can just tell my soul has like left me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you guys have a video of me sitting at the table and I look.
Yeah. Zoned.
Yes.
Out.
Just.
She was not in the same universe.
I know. I was not there at all.
No. Nowhere close to the same universe.
No.
Pretty distant. Lots of lag in everything you were doing and saying. Typical like 3 nights in. Like we're 48, 72 hours, 80 hours into this thing. That's, there's a lot going on at this point. You kind of you rally a little bit after some sleep and food. I'm trying to think, what food did we have out there? Did we bring something out to that one from town? I can't remember if we had something different.
Y'all heated soup up for me for sure.
Yeah, there's
No, we had McDonald's at the next one.
Yeah. I can't remember if we brought something else on that one. So that was the 3 of us in the middle of the night.
And you guys had to have been tired at that point.
Yeah, because aid station 1 was 4 in the morning. Aid station 2 was 2 in the morning. Aid station 3 was like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it just happened to be that the aid stations and the timing all stacked up to right in the middle of the night.
Where you guys weren't sleeping either.
Right.
You're just driving and not sleeping, and I'm just walking and not sleeping.
Right. Except for, I think Marilyn was sleeping a little bit. I think she was fine.
As she should.
I think she was fine, but I think Brad was doing okay with sleep. He was all right.
Yeah.
But definitely not your mom. She was up and
I doubt she slept any more than I did.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was the night that we kind of cut it. She got really mad at me because I was like, yeah, we'll get up at like 4 a.m. and we'll be fine. We'll get there in plenty of time. No issues. Like we had already done that drive twice, so we kind of like knew that section. And I remember pulling up the laptop at 3 a.m., 3:30, and seeing your pace and seeing your time. I was like, oh, we don't need to leave here till like 4:30. And I remember waking them up at 4:30 instead of 4. But we went to bed. When they went to bed, it was like 4 a.m. and 4:30. And I was like, all right, guys, let's get going, 4:30. And I was like being gentle. And I was like, okay, guys, let's go. And And your mom had been up for 5-10 minutes, just kind of like getting stuff ready, moving around. And she saw the time. And she freaked out. She was like, why would you wait so long to tell me? And I didn't give her enough leeway to like do her hair or something.
Just not prepared. She wasn't prepared. Yeah,
I was trying to give him too much sleep.
Us time.
I was giving her too much sleep, and she did not. She was like, "Wake me up earlier next time.
Wake me up earlier.
I don't need this sleep.
I don't need this sleep."
She was
stressed. She was stressed.
She was pissed that I waited so long to wake him up. I was
stressful
nervous,
situation. Oh,
I was nervous
mm-mm.
because I knew that when we got to this, I was like, I'm stepping off with her, and
now y'all are solo to navigate.
And I knew that this is going to be the biggest climb of the course.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you were nervous.
Yeah, I was nervous because I was like, I hope I don't hold her back.
Yeah, little did he know that I was barely functioning at this point.
Yeah, I was definitely nervous. And I was like, well, I knew at that time that I had 167 to 201. So I had a 33-mile section, and I hadn't quite done that. I think my biggest day had been like a 19-mile day or something, maybe up to that point. But I hadn't trained like really hard to like really own 33 miles at this point. But I was like, it'd be okay. Like, we'll manage. And I think the really thing jacked me up was I didn't realize how much no sleep I wasn't going to get, which made me nervous because I was like, oh man, I thought I was going to be like really fresh to like really anchor and like help pull you up this hill.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm just as tired not just as tired, but
sure.
I've had just as much sleep as she's had.
Yeah.
But I was really nervous because I was like, I'm going to let her down. I'm not going to be able to keep up. She's going to have to slow down for me, or something's going to happen that I was nervous about. So we step off, and she thinks this is too long.
Is it too long?
It's an hour and 10 minutes. Well, it's up to you.
You tell me.
We got a lot left to talk about. It can be episode 3. Our version, we can have a third one.
You want to have a third one?
You've only gone 17 times.
I know, I'm sorry.
Goodness.
Okay, we can do episode 3.
We're going to wrap this up. We're at 112.
We need a stand break.
And we'll get back to it another time. So this is episode 7, Moab 240 episode 2.
It's a big event.
It's a lot going on. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe.
Yes.
Shout out to Caleb and Dusty for our cool
the
sign.
Most amazing sign
you can see the
ever.
Blue now that the
it's dark out here.
You can see the blue. And then shout outs to, shout outs to Jess for pacing. Shout outs to all the parents for helping crew, even though we're not done with the course quite yet. And if you want to see any more of like the pictures, videos, go to Danny_Prevail. One's pinned. Right? Is your finisher post pinned in your gram? And if not, you can search the hashtag Moab 240 and go Danny Go, or just go to her
I have a
IG,
whole
and then is it on the stories?
I have a whole
features?
highlight. Yeah.
Highlight. That's what it is. You can see
for both years.
You can see both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go to the IG, look through the highlights, and you can see all these pictures and some of the things we're referencing in the videos we're referencing.
Yeah.
And then before we get to the third one,
yes,
when you listen to 5 and 7,
if you have questions,
make sure to throw her a DM or a comment on one of these things, and we'll make sure to answer it at the end of the third one.
Yeah, because otherwise I'll just keep talking about nonsense the whole time.
Just talk about nonsense. So drop your questions on the YouTube or Danny_Prevail. We'll wrap up number 7. We're halfway to what everyone says no one can do. 13.
Yes, we're over halfway.
Now. To the magic number of 13.
Perfect.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, bye.